Hi, it's Etharal here for EGN, and today we are back with our Crusader Kings Game of Thrones mod, playing obviously as Damion Huntsman in the south of the north. So obviously we've been struggling quite a little bit to gain sort of any traction in this real game, you know. Obviously we've not managed to claim any sort of lands, and we are still quite short of money, so Damion is not exactly in the best place to start out, especially with having 3 daughters, one of which is illegitimate, and no male heirs to speak of. So we're in quite a sort of precarious position here, but we're going to just sort of move some stuff around. We've moved obviously the guy giving up on trying to gain the fingers through fabricating a claim. We're going to try and claim Mort Kaelin instead with that one, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes today, obviously. Now also as well, as you can see, you know, the north is nice and they're all sort of split up. Obviously there is Lyle Lannister, the son of Joffrey, who is currently on the throne, and obviously Robb is now the Lord Paramount of the actual north. He isn't, you know, leading a rebellion or anything like that. There was actually a peace that came from that. Who knows, we might be able to see some actual developments on that side as well. Obviously be sure to keep watching. Obviously I have pre-recorded the video game, so I do know slightly what's happening, and I can show you there is going to be some interesting stuff going on in that department later on. So here we're just going to go through, and obviously, you know, we're setting up our daughter here to sort of arrange to get her some better tuition and things like that. Obviously it does cost us gold, which is not brilliant, but obviously we'll deal with that. And obviously here you can see that we are, you know, trying to sort of get this army going here, collect an army to be able to basically help out our lord in this fight. We haven't really done much fighting. It's been a slight situation obviously we have had that we haven't really been able to get very much traction in this game, as I've obviously mentioned previously, which is not as great. We're not doing quite as well as obviously the other game of Crusader Kings 2 that I am currently running. But then again, if you remember obviously in that one, how the first how the father went was not good either. So Damion here though is just trying to be careful. Obviously he's making sure obviously that, you know, he's got the best people for each of the jobs. Not everybody is completely thrilled with him as well, which isn't brilliant, which is probably not surprising given the state that, you know, he's actually got the neck in at the minute. And so we are going to, you know, try and just sort out our guys, and we have had to, you know, reduce down our army unfortunately when of course what just happened, but we actually do manage to get a claim on Mort Kaelin. So as he is only a small lord, he doesn't have a duchy or anything like that at all. We're hoping very much that that's something that we're going to be able to claim against him, and we are going to go to the Iron Bank, and Damion decides that, you know, he does want to try and declare war to be able to claim that. However, unfortunately at the minute it's the case that he just simply doesn't have the funds to be able to do it. So I think he is considering idea going to ask for an actual loan from the Iron Bank to be able to, you know, actually get some money to be able to raise up some forces and lead hopefully a attack to be able to claim those lands. Obviously we will have to see how that goes. We are just making sure, you know, sort of to see how it is that our allies are going and whether they will come into the war with us. Currently, you know, this guy is, while he is an ally officially of us, he's not, you know, massively bothered or anything like that. So unfortunately, oh, and there we go, our wife, we receive news that the wife of Damion has actually been pregnant, while we are there sort of trying to, you know, establish all of our sort of people in the north, trying to get up our friends again, so that hopefully when we do declare war they will be more than willing to join us. And so just sort of moving our guys around here, it's one of the things that obviously with all these guys being men, that people do die quite easily there. You can see obviously that he is got less men than us, so we do have a chance of getting him. We're going to try and see if we can get him, mainly just if we can do it sort of before his allies come in, and we will also obviously ask our allies to come and join the war as well, in the hopes that they may actually be able to do something for us, and then it will be a little bit easier for us, obviously, as they are also a high sort of lord in the north as well, although they are quite far away. So hopefully we might be able to take Mort Kaelin before, you know, he does come down, although we'll see how that one goes. So we raise up all of our forces. We're going to need to try and have to figure out a way to do that, when unfortunately Robb Stark steps in and basically says, no, stop it, stop your fighting, you are my vassals and you have better things to do than to be trying to attack each other, which is not brilliant. So we have put ourselves into debt with the Iron Bank for literally nothing there. So what we're going to decide to do is we are actually going to take that money and Damion decides that basically he is going to, try and, sort of build up his gold a bit and build up his gold development, when unfortunately he does hear that while his wife was pregnant, unfortunately it was a case that the child was stillborn, and unfortunately, that is not another one to add to the family. Not a brilliant situation, but we can, deal with that. Obviously, it's something that we'll deal with at a later date, though, but for the minute, we're just going to have to sort of, I think Damion, it's safe to say, just throws himself into his work, tries to forget about it, and hope that, it doesn't happen again, basically. And so, the King of the Iron Throne there has now been crowned king, and that is Lyle. He has obviously gone to his coronation and made it all official with the sept, and so hopefully this might represent a bit of a time of peace where we can hopefully develop our guys. I think the aim we're going to do here is maybe rather than doing sort of in wars and that, if obviously Rob is going to sort of step in and try and stop us, then I think Damion is going to try and actually go about things a little bit differently, so maybe try through marriages and things like that to be able to bring lands into the neck to hopefully be able to get a decent bit of land before we then maybe later on look at claiming when we are outnumbering people. But obviously we'll see how that goes as we're sort of going along here. And so one thing I would love to mention, that this series, if you do enjoy it, please do feel free to subscribe. I do always love to see extra people interacting with the videos and that. Obviously if it is something that you are interested in, do feel free to leave a comment and all that sort of stuff. Would definitely be great to see that. And so we're just going to continue on here though, with obviously letting everything march forward there. We do have a decent bit of gold saved up here. Obviously we've managed to pay the interest on the Iron Bank to be able to buy us a little bit more time, I believe, if I remember rightly. And so we are now going to have the money there to be able to build up a town at our main castle. So we're going to start with building that so that we can hopefully begin to increase Grey Watch's influence. It is pretty much the bottom of the north, and so we are pretty much in a corner by ourselves, but who knows, we might be able to actually claim some land and be able to expand at some point, whether that be ourselves or with our later descendants. So, but hopefully obviously Damion is wanting to, at the very least, whether when his daughter obviously takes the throne, takes lordship of the neck, that at least we can leave it in a better place than obviously we found it in, would be sort of the ideal situation, rather than just spending money on, educating the children and making them into better people and things like that, which, while obviously is definitely a good thing to be able to do, we do still at the same time want to be improving our lands and everything, to be able to give them more clout in the north, and to be able to sort of make more of an effect and impact on the actual kingdom itself, which is something that would be, pretty much an ideal situation. But, we'll see how that all obviously goes as we're going along with the series. So, up here, it's actually, there. And so I do believe that is Lady Sansa that we have had a little encounter with, shall we say. I think it's safe to say that that's one that everyone is going to keep nice and quiet. Obviously anyone who's seen the movie, and not the movie, the TV series, and obviously read the books, very well aware of who Sansa is, and the idea of obviously that encounter is quite an amusing one there, something that probably wouldn't really have done the character itself, but that's the joy of this game, that the sort of things that can happen are things that you would just never really actually expect to actually happen, and create quite a nice little alternate timeline. And so here we go, we are just going to, let's say, keep expanding, the intrigue sort of things that are going on. There's not as much really for ourselves, we're trying to basically keep everything nice and contained and controlled. And there we go, after our encounter we go back, and promptly our wife is now pregnant again. This would be our 5th child, so the Huntsman family is steadily expanding, and so hopefully it's one that, this is, fingers crossed, might be a son here, and we'll be actually able to, be able to grow our family there and have a male heir, and that will pretty much secure our descendant into the next generation, rather than having to get matrimonial marriages and things like that with daughters, which is, it's something you can do, but it's a touch and go sort of situation. It's not the ideal sort of setup that you want, obviously, as vassals do get minds if you're female or if you have female heirs. So it's definitely something that Damion has got his fingers crossed about, and he is really, really hoping for, being well into sort of his 30s now and everything. It's something he expected hopefully to have probably happened quite a long time ago there, really. And so we're just going to sort of keep along. There we go. We now have our castle town, which has actually been built in Greywatch. So we're hopefully going to, you know, be able to bring in a little bit more money there. I mean, how much money, it, you know, might not be a massive amount, but, you know, every little helps. And obviously over the years that will eventually start to pay for itself and start to cover off that 150 that we did have to spend on improving that land. And so we're going to just sort of see how everything goes ticking going on here. And so you can see that, you know, the Greywatch of the Neck is pretty much is pretty contained. You know, there's not really very much troubles internally. Obviously, anybody who's played a Crusader Kings 2 game will know one of the big internal problems comes when you do actually begin to sort of have new descendants coming into the throne. And so here we are going to start to expand into our land, obviously arranging sort of some extra sort of marriages and betrothals and things, trying to focus on, you know, getting allies with some of the other high lords, and so that way we can actually, you know, arrange some betrothals, ideally matrilineal, obviously to keep the Huntsman family going for as long as possible. But, you know, we'll see how that goes, and we're just trying to have a little bit of a check around here and to see what it is we can do. Obviously there I do accidentally realise that I have accidentally clicked on the marriage, not the betrothal. And so there we go, we are managing to actually claim quite a few actual matrilineal marriages here, and for people that could potentially, you know, be quite important people, and it would potentially be a case that the Huntsman family is actually managing to usurp a couple of the thrones, maybe with a couple of, you know, potentially good sort of careful plans there. And so we're going to have a look at seeing, you know, possibly into being able to claim the finger of Flint's finger, and basically be able to claim the high lordship of that land. But obviously that is something that is going to take a bit of a while. Thankfully the actual guy himself is getting, shall we say, on in years a little bit, but, you know, we'll have to obviously keep a track of him, and hopefully, you know, we might be able to get somebody into his family in marriage that'll work, and then be able to actually, you know, usurp that throne obviously from him at some later date, maybe be able to claim sort of a civil war when somebody else takes control and things like that, to be able to put our descendants on to the actual throne. We'll also begin to, you know, improve our sort of opinion in the court of Flint's finger, just so that way, you know, if we do decide to do any plots, that way, you know, Damien's got some guys that, you know, you can maybe sort of bribe into helping him out and things like that, and basically be able to actually do a plot in the north. And so what seems to happen here, as you can see, is that the Iron Throne once again has been split into a actual civil war. There's some stuff going on down in Dawn, I believe, at the minute, which obviously is something we will have to consider possibly going on. And oh, there we go. And what's happened? But a civil war where actually Tyrion Lannister has actually managed to claim the throne and pass it on to his son Tywin. A bit ironic, given that he actually killed Tywin Lannister, his father, that he would actually name his son after him. But, you know, we are going to support the throne, and, you know, this new family, you know, of the new branch of the Lannisters is somebody that we are happy to actually support and sort of see how they go. Although the rest of the North unfortunately didn't actually share our agreements and haven't actually joined into the civil war, so not a brilliant sort of situation to be in. But, you know, we'll see how this goes, and who knows, hopefully we might be able to, you know, bring the Robb Stark on board with everything if we can, possibly at a later date, who knows, and then come back into the north. So obviously, you know, the lands that we are actually getting is actually, you know, we are actually going to be able to claim these lands and bring them into our kingdom, or our territories, I should say. So we've got a decent bit of money there, and we have actually now, obviously, as you will have seen earlier on, you know, we've now got a son and another daughter, so we have got quite a fair few children now alive. We've got 5 children, hopefully, that will survive to adulthood. Unfortunately, 4 of them are daughters, but, you know, if we can marry most of them off matrimony, in the female one, I can sometimes say that and sometimes can't seem to say it in that, and then hopefully, you know, we should find ourselves in quite a nice little situation. There is one big problem which I did manage to overlook, obviously, though, when I decided to play Damion Huntsman as part of the Neck, was that unfortunately it is actually a case that these lands are split right down the middle, which is not brilliant, obviously, for trying to bring in our actual guys and things like that. But, you know, we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, if we ever do declare new wars, as obviously you've seen in the past, it is a case that our lands are now, our forces are split in half, and obviously they can potentially attack one and, be able to sort of attack our armies separately rather than having to deal with it in one chunk, which obviously would be the far better situation for us to actually be finding ourselves in. Not an ideal situation, but we'll deal with that obviously when and as it comes to it. And so we're going to begin sort of still to focus on Flint's Finger. We do now have obviously a son, so what we can look at potentially doing is arrange a marriage between our son, who is our heir, and one of the daughters of Flint's Fingers, and then possibly I think we are going to look at trying to assassinate the son, the one son that he has, as obviously the actual lord of Flint's of the Fingers is obviously quite old. It's very unlikely he's going to have another son, so it's very likely we may be able to get some inheritance that way, but obviously we will have to see how that goes as everything is going on, and we'll sort of take things as we can. So there we go, and the War of Independence in the South has obviously ended. You can see there obviously that pretty much everything has kind of collapsed into lords and everything, as everyone is completely and utterly divided in the actual Iron Kingdom. So hopefully though it might be a case that obviously everyone is pretty divided at the minute. I mean, like I say, by their Lord Paramount. Nobody really knows exactly what they're going to do, and so we're going to here decide upon civil war sides. We're going to try and we're going to definitely support the throne here and sort of see whether we can maybe get the Iron Throne to continue and Rob Stark to be out a little bit. So I'll leave it there for today, so thanks very much for watching. Do be sure to subscribe if you did enjoy it, and I shall see you next time here at EGN.